Edwina, this is Sara, Katherina, and Kabir. Today we're going to be presenting our recommendation for Dropbox. So the main two questions that we had for ourselves was number one, how do we expand our customer base within the free and premium space? And number two, how do we convert our free users into premium users? So we're looking at the three factors within our situation. Competitors are expanding into enterprise markets. There's incoming competitors from Google Drive and Cloud, and finally, previous marketing tactics in terms of paid advertising have been ineffective. And looking at all these three factors and our other analyses, we are recommending today to partner with startup accelerators and schools. And we think that this strategy will allow us to leverage our current branding and current functionality to gain and retain new customer markets. So looking into why we decided to not go into the enterprise market today, we looked at three factors: company values, product strengths, and competitive landscape. So we saw that Dropbox's main strength was in its simplicity. It's easy to use, it's great for file retention and file preservation, and great for storage space. And we see that its strengths aren't necessarily in the amount of features that it offers, especially in its recent example where it chose not to allow people to share files from other sources on their computer. We also saw that the enterprise market is being saturated with other competitors, and Dropbox is not a brand that's been recognized within the top 25. We think that as well, enterprises usually have their own in-house strategies just because they are so focused on security. So in general, we don't think that it would be worthwhile for Dropbox to invest its resources into a market that isn't easy to tap into, as well doesn't align with their product. And instead of tackling those big enterprises, we think it should focus on its current markets of individuals and small businesses, because we think that these consumers are the ones who need data storage capability but don't have that pre-existing infrastructure to fulfill their current needs.
So what Kabir and I are here to do is to tackle the first question: how do we ensure that we grow our customer base? And we'll be doing that with B2B partnerships in two ways. Number one is startup accelerators, and number two is schools, mainly because of two reasons: simplicity and customer retention. So number one, startup accelerators, what we'll be doing there is selling our $199 for a year, 100 gigabyte service to the startup accelerators. They pay us, and then they provide that service for free to all their startups. And there are three main reasons why we think that would be a really great target. Number one is that startups don't have the infrastructure to store cloud, store files by themselves, but they really, really need it for group collaboration and stuff like that. Number two is that they're really productivity junkies. They need anything to bring their productivity sky high, and Dropbox is here to do that. And thirdly is that they're so interconnected with their community, and once they fall in love with Dropbox, they won't shut up about it at their socials, with their colleagues, and with their friends. So we think this is really, really going to work, and it's the organic marketing that's worked with us before, and we really want to pursue that in the future as well. And we see that there's already been a lot of buy-ins with the accelerators, with these type of technologies partnerships. So for example, 500 Startups, they offer in dinero accounting services for their startups, and also Next36, they offer Slack software to their startups as well. And so we know that these startup accelerators are already receptive to these technology partnerships, and we know it would be really easy to get into that market. And finally, let's look at some numbers associated. There's 186 major startups accelerators worldwide, and 114 of that will be in the United States. And this is a main market that we want to tap into because it's the one that we're most familiar with. Every single year, there's around 1,300 companies that graduate, and according to these assumptions, we'll be gaining $6 million over 5 years. And this is really important because once these startups use our platform, they don't want to move to another one after they graduate. They'll be wanting to buy our services themselves because they don't want to move all the data storage over to another platform. And so this will really increase the customer stickiness and really increase the customer retention as well.
Awesome. And so the second part is we really want to expand to universities. We're going to do this two ways, primarily through integration of Dropbox in online learning portals and personalized email, like getting Dropbox for students everywhere, so they can have a personal Dropbox that you can use for assignments, collaboration, and having the files everywhere. And so we want to apply to these three main schools just because Drew Houston, the CEO of Dropbox, graduated from MIT, and these two schools are also really close to MIT. And the whole point of why students would benefit from this is because currently, right now, there's not a system of where students can give to hand in assignments through the online portal. They have to use email services such as FAS emails for Harvard and MIT webmail for MIT. And so that's really not efficient if you have large files, and it can be really cumbersome to use that. So if we integrate Dropbox through the online portal, they can just submit it, and also professors can submit lecture materials back and forth through other professors, and it just becomes much more efficient because students can use their personal Dropboxes to have all their files everywhere.
So Kabir and Katherina really spoke about how we can increase our free users. But the second part of our strategy is how we can turn these free users into paid users, which is really important because that's how Dropbox sustains ourselves year over year. And so we have a two-part strategy. One is we're going to focus on more features. So we really want to keep that Dropbox easy to use, one product for all. But a lot of our customers have been asking on the vote box, like specific features. But we can actually embed those features as part of our premium plan. And so if people don't need that space or aren't enticed by extra space for a premium package, they will be enticed by some of the features we offer only in the premium package. And the second way we'll target free users into converting them into paid users is through personalized emails sent just at the right time. And we'll do this by working closely with IBM Watson Analytics. So these are the 4 features we want to focus on into embedding them as part of our premium package. The first 2, link permissions and remote device wipe, are really great for our individual customers, which makes up half of our target demographic. But our second 2 features, the centralized billing and team folder, are great for small businesses, which make up the other half of our target market. And the second strategy we'll be focusing on is working closely with IBM Watson Analytics. And what they are is a data analytical platform. What we can do is we can send IBM Watson over all our spreadsheets filled with tons of information. What IBM Watson Analytics will give back to us is specific insights, such as the personal email that we sent you. We can use that through that insight IBM Watson provided us. They told us that, for example, Anthony has been sending over lots of emails to Mark. And we'll send Anthony an email over saying, hey Anthony, we noticed that you've been sending Mark over tons of emails over the last 2 weeks consecutively. Here's how you can save some time. Maybe the team folder and the customized bill and the centralized billing will be great for you. Here's my contact information. I can easily get you set up, and here's a 30-day free trial as well. And this is how we can turn Anthony, who's a free user, into a paid user by showing him exactly how useful this premium package is specifically for him. And this strategy will actually give us a $190,000 profit.
So for our 5-year expansion plan, we actually have 3 main parts. For the first 2 years, we really want to focus that, make sure IBM Watson Analytics is working correctly and converting free users into premium users. We also want to make sure that students are using Dropbox to its full capabilities and that students actually like the service. And we also want to make sure that our tech like startup accelerators are using Dropbox and they're taking advantage of like the services they have provided for them. And what we also want to do in the first 2 years is expand to more East Coast schools, so preferably Penn and Yale, and then expand to more startup accelerators in Silicon Valley, like Techstars, but many others. And then in years 3 and 4, we want to expand to Europe, primarily UK and Germany, because that's our largest secondary market. And then year 5, expand to Asia, because that's a really untapped market that's not developed yet.
So finally, we know that there's some risks associated with our plan. Number 1 is that it's a very highly competitive industry, and I think we'd be really doing that through the B2B partnerships and making sure that we get the customers' stickiness with our platform and really not go off and try another service. Number 2 is if we're not able to penetrate the school system, and we believe that it will definitely be difficult to begin with, but once we become more successful, things will grow exponentially. And there's also multiple school systems that we can tap into, whether it be public, private, or Catholic. And finally is what if startups develop their own storage infrastructure once they become too big and they can just make their own infrastructure? Well, we think that that's a very minority number of startups in these seed accelerators, and we still want to continue to target these seed accelerators because what they're really able to give us to do is retain those first-base customers. Awesome.
Thanks. Thank you. Would you guys just be able to, so I like the idea of partnering with the startups and the schools, would you be able to just walk us through, I guess, like practically what that partnership would look like with the school, like how we'd be integrated?
Yeah, for sure. And so we would go to the CEOs like MIT, and we'd be like, hey, you guys don't have a service that we believe could be really beneficial to students to make sure that they have all their files. So we can integrate Dropbox as a tool on your online learning portal for like $5,000. And we believe that the schools would really find this useful because it would make the student experience a lot better. And then students can use that to transfer files and have all their files in different locations. And then we can, scale that out to Harvard and BU.
And then the other question I kind of had, around the accelerator, so did you guys assume that 100% of the accelerators would use it, and then 100% of companies leaving the accelerator will stick with the product?
Yeah, so I did assume that 1294 companies will be using it. Yeah, so I assume that the 1-year package is $199, and each company will be using 2 of those packages, and then I assume that all 1294 of the companies graduating every single year will be using it. And then I assume that 70% of those leaving the accelerator will then purchase our services by themselves.
Okay.
So this is where the math really comes in.
Do you guys think that those were realistic? Having every accelerator adopted and 70%?
Right. I think that having every accelerator to opt in will be quite difficult, just because we're not in that market yet. But I think to get their buy-in will not be very difficult, and this is definitely a target that we want to set over the next 5 years in our long-term plan. However, with that being said, I think that 70% of the companies graduating and continue to stick with Dropbox is very realistic, because I really wouldn't want to move all my documents onto another platform.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I really like the bunch of ideas that you guys have, but my only concern is that it's a pretty aggressive timeline, and there's like 4 different strategies we're working with here, maybe 5. Do you think it's realistic that we're going to be able to tackle all of this with the current management capabilities, or do you think that we should more so prioritize maybe 1 or 2 of these ideas first?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. And when we were looking at this case, we felt like, okay, right now Dropbox is a pretty small team. But they do want to focus on growth. And what they do recognize is that there are a lot of customers out there that they can leverage. Which is why the question was, should we do 1 product or 2 products to meet the customer needs? In terms of our 4 strategies, I do think that there is a timeline that is clear. Although it is a bit aggressive for a 1-year timeline, I think it can be panned out in 5 years once the management has some time to consider. But what comes first is targeting these accelerators and targeting schools, which is how we can increase our free user base. But once we have that free user base, the second part of the equation is how can we convert those free users into paid users. So that actually does come later on, and that comes later on once our company and our management has time to develop relationships and focus on these strategies, and then mitigate those risks, and then go towards this paid user strategy, which would hopefully happen over the next 5 years, which is where Dropbox as a startup would experience the most exponential growth.
I have a question just around the logistics of the personalized emails. Obviously that's the personalizing those with details with them, and the logistics behind timing all those is pretty complex. How would that actually be implemented? How are we going to do that?
So 30% of our engineers are already working on a strategy similar to this. But what's really great about IBM Watson Analytics is that they do all of the hardcore analytics for us. That's not actually our team working on that. What IBM Watson Analytics gives us is very general action items, such as a lot of emails or a lot of Dropbox links are being sent from this location to this location. And it's generally what we can act on sending an email that falls into that group.
And do we just type out these emails? We have someone doing this, or is this automated, or?
So it is automated. So like the email you have in front of you, there are specific things which we can replace, but the email in front of you can fit a large number of customers that are in the same kind of pickle. For example, they're sending a lot of if
small businesses are using our free platform. This is an email that we can send out to all those small businesses because we'll be seeing that they'll be sending their team members links continuously. And that's an opportunity we can pick on. So 30% of our engineers are already working on this. 30% of their time is towards this. And we'll definitely, most likely, have to make 1 or 2 more hires on sales or customer journey hires. Although this is something we'll be able to do because our plan is of growth and we are a startup, so we'll be able to afford those hires need be. But right now, it's something we're already currently working on, and we can just expand that and leverage that.
Cool. I think that's probably it. Your time.
Thank
Awesome,
you.
great job.
Well, if you don't mind stepping outside for